Okay.
Good.
Hmm.
Before I threw it in this hand, one way not to the top way.
And we're live.
Ready? All right.
Morning and welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for March 12th, 2024. Calling this meeting to order. If you are able, would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor, stop. Lead us.
Yes, sir, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. It's good to see so many new faces in the room today. Welcome. We'll begin with staff announcements. Are there staff that would like to provide updates to the coming county events that may be of interest to the public? Lisa.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair and respective board members. Lisa Medina, Environmental Management Agency Administrator. It says, "Do not touch me."
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I can always tiptoe as well.
Can we get someone to put that down? It's not near everyone's near that.
Well, I'm also the shortest probably person in this room, so thank you. Okay, thank you. I still wanted to touch it because it says "do not touch me," so I wanted to touch it.
A woman after my heart.
So Focus had our first free rabies vaccine and microchip clinic this past weekend, and we are very happy to announce that over 188 rabies vaccines were given to our Calaveras pets and pups and cats, and 126 microchips were implanted. So if that pet ever gets lost, the pet will be able to get scanned and sent home to their humans. A huge thank you to Focus and all the volunteers that donated their precious time for this event. We owe so much, and we are so respectfully grateful for Focus and our volunteers. We cannot thank them enough for all they do for our Calaveras animals and animal services. A special thank you to Dr. Kathy Gatlin for administering the rabies vaccines. She donated her precious time and huge efforts in making the clinic successful. The next free rabies clinic and microchip clinic is Saturday, April 13th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. here at the Government Center again. This is a drive-through clinic. April 13th is also Calaveras Airport Days, and Animal Services will be there for an adoption event. So all of you come out and adopt a pup or kitten. Focus will also be there with a booth at the event alongside Animal Services. Please come and visit our booth and adopt a new furry family member. I say that 3 times real fast. We are beyond excited to announce that Animal Services will be receiving a grant award of $200,000 on behalf of Senator Alvarado Gil. This grant was originally announced a few months ago that it was rescinded, but it is now a go. And Animal Services will be using these grant funds to improve and enhance the quality of our current shelter operations, including the purchase of a new Animal Services vehicle, site security enhancements, purchase of lean-tos to protect our livestock we rescue, and communication equipment for staff and volunteers. A special thank you again to Senator Alvarado Gil, Dana Jorgensen, and Alex Sagewalker for playing a huge part in getting this grant And also a huge thank you to Supervisor Huberty for his communication with the Senator's office and grant administrators. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other staff announcements? Any online?
There are no online staff announcements.
All right, I should make a note that Supervisor Huberty is joining us remotely. It is a correctly done process, so he will be participating in the meeting. I got that right, Counselor?
Yes, he's participating from a teleconference location.
Thank you. Recognitions and acknowledgements. Stacy?
Item 1, proclamation, Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, adopt a proclamation honoring Kenneth Wayne Seth as a Calaveras County Centenarian.
Gary, you've got the gavel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Seth can't be here today. However, his birthday is on the 16th, and I will be attending his birthday on the 16th, and I will present him with this proclamation if it passes by the board. It's a proclamation honoring Kenneth Wayne Seth as a Calaveras County Centenarian. Whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth will be honored by his family and friends on March 16th, 2024 in celebration of his 100th birthday. Whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth was born in Seattle, Washington on March 16th, 1924. And whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth married Lois Jean Thompson on May 3rd, 1948. And they remained happily married for 46 years until her passing on November, doesn't give a date, it says November of 1994. Whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth, blessed with 2 daughters, Peggy Ann and Pamela Jean, and a grandson, Derek, and his loving wife, Karen, and with 2 great-grandchildren, Clarissa and Gabrielle. Whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth served his country with valor in the United States Army in World War II, stationed in the Pacific. He's got to be one of the few, very few World War II veterans. Yes. Whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth had many careers over his life, from working in Hollywood as a film runner, as a public bus driver, a mailman, a salesman for Minute Maid orange juice, and so much more. During his last days of employment, he worked for Newell Window Furnishings Incorporated as a salesman and display installer until his retirement 25 years ago. He retired at 75. Whereas Kenneth Wayne Seth has lived during the most eventful century of the nation's history and has been a model and inspiration to his family and to those who have known him. Oh, is there any public comment on this 100-year-old World War II veteran? Well, we do have some applause. If not, I'll bring it back, and I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
A motion by Supervisor Stopper,
Second.
second by Supervisor Garamendi. All in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we gotta
Sorry,
do
we have
roll
to do roll
call.
call.
Sorry, we have one member that's not here, so we'll do roll call. Madam Clerk.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4. Yes. District 5.
Aye.
Thank you.
Passes 5-0. Therefore, be it proclaimed that Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes Kenneth Wayne Seth as a centenarian and congratulates him on his lifetime of contributions to his nation, county, and community, as well as to his family, friends, and neighbors. Therefore, passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras, State of California, this 12th day of March, 2024. Don't we have all 5 supervisors down there and get a picture? Well, we don't have 5. We're not here, so. Right here.
Shall we so fortunate? Thank you.
I think a picture of Martin right here.
All right.
Can you text me that?
Yes, of course.
Item number 2, Stacy, would you read that?
Item 2, proclamation. Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, adopt a proclamation recognizing March twenty twenty-four as American Red Cross Month in Calaveras County.
Thank you. I'll pass the gavel to Supervisor Fallendorf.
Thank you, Chair. Whereas in times of crisis, people in Calaveras County come together to care for one another. This humanitarian spirit is part of the foundation of our community and is exemplified by the American Red Cross volunteers and donors. Whereas in 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission of preventing and alleviating people's suffering. Today, more than 140 years later, we honor the kindness and generosity of the Red Cross volunteers here in Calaveras County, who continue to carry out Clara's life-saving legacy. They join millions of people across the United States who volunteer, give blood, donate financially, or learn vital life-preserving skills through the Red Cross. Whereas in Calaveras County, the contributions of the local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours, whether it's providing emergency shelter, food, and comfort for families devastated by disasters like home fires and snow events, donating essential blood for accidents, surgeries, and those receiving treatment, supporting service members and veterans through the unique challenges of military life, and helping save lives with first aid, CPR, and other skills, or delivering international humanitarian aid. Whereas their work prevent and alleviate human suffering, it is vital to strengthening our community's resilience. We therefore dedicate this March to all those that continue to advance the noble legacy of Clara Barton, who lived by her words. You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it. We ask others to join this commitment to give back to their community. And with that, I will open it up for public comment.
Good morning, members of the Board of Supervisors. Marty Crane. We do all the fun stuff. If it gets to be too much like work, we call in all our friends. So today, thank you once again for acknowledging March as American Red Cross Month to bring critical awareness to our communities. This cannot be repeated often enough, so let me just share a few highlights. The American Red Cross works to alleviate human suffering, protect life and health, and uphold human dignity, especially during armed conflicts and other emergencies. Each day, the American Red Cross provides nearly 1,500 services to members of the military, veterans, and their families through our Hero Care Network. On average, nearly 13,000 people each day receive life-saving Red Cross training and information. In our Red Cross International and national capacity, we work to prevent and alleviate human suffering wherever it may be found. The Calaveras Gold Country region consists of 2 chapters, the Northern California chapter and the Sierra Delta chapter. California Gold Country region serves more than 3.7 million people across 26 counties. Sierra Delta chapter covers Sierra, Yuba, Nevada, Placer, Sutter, El Dorado, Yolo, Sacramento, Amador, Alpine, Calaveras, and Tuolumne counties. That's our area. Locally in the Mother Lode this past year, we've installed 500 smoke alarms. If you'd like to help save lives, please know that your Red Cross California Gold Country region is working alongside volunteers and community partners to sound the alarm and install free smoke alarms along with our fire department partners and provide residents with important fire safety information. We are also scheduled every month for additional smoke alarm installations and preparedness events such as wildfire campaign, readiness, partnering with Pedro, which empowers children to survive fire, and so much more. We are committed to working with partners and the public to help individuals and families prevent, prepare for, and respond to emergencies and disasters, both natural and human caused. You can help. Everyone can help. The American Red Cross shelters, feeds, and provides comfort to victims of disasters, supplies about 40% of the nation's blood, teaches skills that save lives, distributes international humanitarian aid, and supports veterans, military members, and their families. The Red Cross is a nonprofit organization that depends on volunteers and the generosity of the American public to deliver its mission. For more information, please visit redcross.org. We work to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors by keeping our focus on the 5 C's that are the key values that Red Cross volunteers strive to embody every day. We aim to be compassionate, creative, collaborative, credible, and committed while supporting the Red Cross mission. Further, the 7 principles of Red Cross are humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, unity, and universality. These 7 fundamental principles sum up the movement's ethics and are the core of its approach to helping people in what feels like the worst day of their lives. We are
The light,
Is going.
okay. It's been flashing red.
I know, but
Okay.
I didn't think that mattered with this. Will you finish this for me, please?
Yeah, I'll start here. These 7 fundamental principles sum up the movement of ethics and area at the core of its approach to help people in what feels like the worst days of their lives. We are honored to answer the call and welcome all our biggest parties to join us. That's you, the public, our friends, and our neighbors. Thank you for having us here today and for helping us share critical information.
The rest of that is something that I was personal for me, so I'll get it later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, and so again, we thank you so much for this. So in addition to your redcross.org and or 1-800-RED Cross for any information, if you'd like to become a volunteer, if you need help or just want any information whatsoever, we have that, would be great. And I also have some pamphlets here and a lot of great information. If I could hand this to the clerk and if you could use this however you see fit for the public, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment on this proclamation?
Good morning, Chair Garamendi, members of the board. Corey Allen, Health and Human Services. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the acknowledgement for the Red Cross. Your county employees who can be activated as disaster services workers, and specifically your Health and Human Services staff who work alongside your Red Cross to make sure that sheltering operations happen. And the work could not be done without the work that Red Cross does. Their volunteers are fantastic, the most energetic group. So I'm pleased to see the proclamation before you today.
Thank you. Any other comment? Yeah, I'll bring it back to the board. We do have to do the roll call vote. So is there a motion to approve this proclamation?
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor, and I'll turn it over to the clerk for roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5,
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Now therefore be it resolved that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors proclaims March 2024 as the American Red Cross Month in Calaveras County. We encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission by donating, giving blood, or becoming a Red Cross volunteer. Make sure to visit the Red Cross page at redcross.org. Thank you.
Taking a picture.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Yeah.
The other side. Muscle.
All right, item number 3.
Item 3, proclamation, Human Services adopt a proclamation declaring the month of March 2024 as Social Work Appreciation Month in Calaveras County.
Thank you. I pass the gavel to Supervisor Stopper.
Thank you, Chair Garamendi. Whereas the primary mission of social work is to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic and complex needs of all people. Whereas social workers put a particular focus on helping people who are vulnerable, oppressed, or living in poverty. Whereas social workers follow a code of ethics that calls on them to fight social injustice and respect the dignity and worth of all people. Whereas social workers meet people where they are and help people and communities reach their full potential. Whereas the social work profession for more than a century has worked to improve this society, with social workers playing a role in establishing a minimum wage, Social Security, and Medicare, and working to ensure equal rights for all people. Whereas social workers are on the front lines and helping this nation solve pressing social problems, including an increased demand for mental health services, an opioid addiction crisis, and economic inequality. Whereas social workers are in high demand, with some states reporting shortages in social work staffing, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics predicting social work will be one of the fastest growing professions in our nation during this decade. Whereas the 2024 Social Work Month theme, Empowering Social Workers, embodies the need for society to support social workers so they can continue to do the life-affirming work they do and help address societal needs. Whereas social workers, in turn, empower people and communities, helping everyone achieve their full potential. Public comment.
Good morning, Chair Garamendi, members of the board, CAO and council. Thank you for, I am Tamara Davis. I'm program manager for Children's Services, commonly known as Child Protective Services. Thank you for recognizing March as Social Worker Appreciation Month. The 2024 National Association of Social Worker theme is empowering social workers, inspiring action, and leading change to recognize a heightened need to support social workers doing difficult work for families, individuals, and communities. Social workers are uniquely qualified to handle societal challenges, including the rising crisis of homelessness and opioid addiction, along with challenges of poverty, mental health needs, and unhealthy family dynamics. Social workers are found in various settings such as schools, hospitals, and throughout local, state, and federal levels of government. Social workers in child welfare are unique from other roles of social work in that they are required to respond to emergencies involving situations of child abuse or neglect at all hours, including weekends and holidays, however, are not fully recognized as first responders. Child welfare is a demanding, complex realm of social work, requiring roughly 2 to 3 years to gain solid foundational knowledge. However, statistically, most turnover happens in 2 years or less. We are proud to say that half of our existing social workers have now crossed that threshold and have been with the agency for over 2 years, most of them now reaching at least 3 years. And we are proud to also have one who has over 18 years of service in Calaveras County. Nearly all of our supervisors and managers have promoted from social work positions within Calaveras County. This stability is creating a solid core of social workers for Calaveras County and servicing the community. One of our supervisors will be retiring soon with nearly 28 years of service to this community, which is an amazing accomplishment to acknowledge. The management team and I are honored to have an amazing team of social workers committed to serving our community and appreciate the recognition from the board and putting forth the proclamation and honoring the hard work that they do each and every day. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Garamendi, members of the board. Susan Gleason, I'm the program manager of the Adult Services Unit. So kind of ditto of what Tamara said. I will just kind of add that, thank you for this proclamation. I want to say thank you to all the social workers out there, not just in our community, but globally out there that are working hard, coordinating, communicating with clients, families, other agencies. It takes a village. To the social workers, thank you for listening. Thank you for seeing the different pieces that need to be woven together to help these families. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being supportive. Thank you for being resourceful. Thank you for being committed. And thank you for believing in the work that you do every day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Crane again. I just wanted to share that she mentioned that they are not on the first responder network or list. I'd like to say that when there is a public emergency and we bring together a shelter, what we're doing is we're bringing an entire community of people into one space. It requires all the services in the community to help with that. And every single time our health and human services, our children's services, public health, they're all there. No one can do this by themselves. It takes all the partners. They are absolutely part of the first responder team. So thank you for all the work you do. Thank you.
Any further public comment? I'll bring it. Oh, I apologize.
I want to be able to give one of these to each of the supervisors. Good morning. My name's Linda Toran and I'm the Poet Laureate of Calaveras County.
Sorry, Linda, is this for public comment or is this regarding social workers?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was time to do this.
No, ma'am.
Okay, sorry.
Next.
Well,
Okay.
I'll hold on to this.
we'll provide the opportunity soon enough. So I'll bring it back to the board and entertain a motion before I go roll call.
If I may, I want to thank the social workers. To paraphrase FDR, the role of government is not to make sure those who have plenty have more, but those who have nothing have enough. And my mother-in-law was a social worker, and you guys are really where the rubber meets the road for our government and our community. You keep people safe. And I just really want to recognize how hard the work that you guys do is. And I really thank you very much, sincerely, for all that you do for our county and our people. I'll make a motion.
Well, second. We have a motion by Supervisor Garamendi, a second by Supervisor Toffenelli. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
District 1,
Yes, or I, I'm sorry.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4. Aye. District 5.
Aye. Now therefore it be proclaimed in recognition of the selfless contributions made by Calaveras County social workers, Calaveras County Board of Supervisors proclaims the month of March 2024 as Social Work Appreciation Month in Calaveras County, and call upon all citizens to join the National Association of Social Workers in Calaveras County in celebration and support of the social work profession. Thank you. No, no, you may be. You read it, yeah. Come on down, Martin.
That's hard, Sarah. Look what Sarah made for us.
No, you're good. That's okay. You got it. We'll be in the back. Hey, yeah.
One, two, three, two, one. Right, everybody's good.
You like that?
All right, bringing it back. Those are good people. We're lucky to have them working for our county. Move on to general public comment. Stacy? If there anybody, go ahead.
Read it, correct? Yes. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it's determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is not completed, or I'm sorry, if public comment is completed before 30 minutes allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Thank you. So if you've got an item that's not on the agenda, please come up and speak to it now. If it's on the agenda coming up later, we will, I'll ask you to wait. Marty, you're first.
I feel like I'm sitting on a spring-loaded seat.
It's like
Today is an
that.
exciting day. I wanted to finish sharing this one thing. Have my Red Cross shirt on. One more thing, everyone, please remember to create your go bags. I always mention this and I didn't get to it today. At the very least, get it started. You may need it tomorrow. You might recall the Butte fire. We talked about this the day before it started. I usually share some key items you should include. So in addition to cash, snacks, comfy clothes, and a good book, please remember to include your fresh underlovelies. If you find yourself in a safe shelter, I will probably not give you mine. Please have a great day, volunteer in your community, help a neighbor, go be fabulous, and sprinkle a little magic wherever you go. So now for just Marty, but also in support of Red Cross and all our partners, I want to remind everyone that the melodrama, the last weekend is this weekend. And I want to thank Supervisor Hubbardy for coming to the dress rehearsal. You need to come again. It's, as you know, it turned out to be so phenomenal. And people are just saying that every detail touched their heart. And it was like the best melodrama they ever been to. And they go to, people from Washington said that. And so it's very exciting. So I have a few flyers here and I would encourage you all to come because it supports the Volunteer Center and our partner, our immediate partners, which is the Optimist Club, Red Cross, who lives with us. We now have a permanently located facility from which to respond instead of driving a 3-hour round trip up to Yuba City to get what we needed. We are prepared here. And the Mountain Melodies Choir, the Optimist Club, of course, those are the happy people. The Girl Scout Troop, 2 and hopefully 3 more Cub Scout packs, the Grandparents Project, and others, anyone else that wants to use these facilities that the community has built. So I'd like to leave these with you, please. And if you'll like pass them out, whatever, share. See you at the melodrama. Thank you again, Martin. Supervisor Hubbard.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good morning, Terry McBride, New California State Committee Chair and Senator. I wanted to take a few minutes this morning and talk to you about that election day that we had at the end of January. The way that we did it, actually, we just put vote here signs, and literally people saw those signs and stopped to come in to vote, not even knowing what they were voting for. Basically, they were voting for going back to voter IDs. Do you know I went to the dump yesterday? You know what I have to show? My ID, but you don't have to show it to vote. Isn't there a problem with that? In our country, we need to be able to show our IDs. To say that some people aren't capable of doing that is an absolute insult to those people. Everybody can show some form of ID that they are an American citizen, period, the end. They were also voting for one-day voting, with knowing what the answer is that night. We still don't even know from last Tuesday. There's a problem with that too, because this allows problems to come in. And I think we are finally seeing, people are seeing these problems and demonstrating themselves throughout our country, and especially here in California. We also voted for removing the machines and taking it back to the people, because this country was built by and for we the people. We did this all transparently, and anyone and everyone could come and watch. And we put all the ballots into a clear box, and everybody themselves put the ballot into the box. Nobody touched it. And then at the end, we counted, we tallied, but each of those ballots had a number, and the only person that knew what number was theirs was that person. So that person could come up later and say, well, I'm number 56. What does the tally show I voted? We can't do that now, can we? We don't have that capability to confirm that the way that we voted is how it's been tallied. I think we'd see some real changes in this country if we did that. So why is this such a concern to me? Well, we need to look at the southern border, amongst with everything else that's going on, the incredible debt we're in and everything else. The southern border, many people are not aware of. Do you know how many children are trafficked across that border? Did anybody see The Sound of Freedom? It's an amazing movie. Everybody should go see it. It was well done, considering the subject that it's talking about. It was very well done. Anyone and everyone could watch it, cry a bit, and understand this is going on in our world, but most especially it's going on in our southern border of California. Youngsters that are never seen by their parents again, youngsters that are trafficked for sex and of all things organs. Think about that. That is what happens when one does not have a voting system that one can trust in. Something else is happening on our southern border as we have Chinese military age men. Last week was 7,000 that our people saw. If that doesn't make you nervous, I don't know what else will. So we have many millions of people that have crossed this border. I imagine some of them are here looking for a better life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Next up.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Butner, publisher of Calaveras2024election.com. The endemic corruption, government corruption, and lack of ethics and oversight I have previously addressed before this board continues to worsen. Vice Chair Hubbard, on January 18th, 2023, I filed a citizen-initiated complaint against you with the California Fair Political Practices Commission, backed by considerable primary source evidence alleging you knowingly committed very serious violations. The FPPC found my allegations credible, converting my citizen-initiated complaint into a formal commission-initiated complaint, case number 2023-00471. The state's case is open and pending. Additionally, I have formally submitted the facts of this case to the California Attorney General, Calaveras Grand Jury, and Calaveras District Attorney. Supervisor Follendorf, your 2020 and 2024 FPPC campaign filings reveal glaring irregularities. You are also the subject of an FPPC complaint alleging financial impropriety. Please explain, Supervisor, how nearly $7,000 of residual campaign funds from your 2020 campaign treasury suddenly vanished on July 1st, 2020, per your FPPC Form 460 filing, covering the period of July 1st, 2020 to September 19, 2020, which was not disclosed until your December 5th, 2023 filing just prior to you announcing your 2024 reelection bid. These missing funds are directly traceable to the $15,000 contribution, your 2020 campaign by SEIU 1021. You received $15,000 on March 12, 2020, 9 days after the March 3rd, 2020 election, and recorded that contribution on your Form 460, effectively erasing your remaining campaign debt. 7 evidentiary documents, specifically your Form 460, some of which were submitted by you as much as 3 years late on December 5th, 2023, were affirmed as factual by you under penalty of perjury. An additional Form 460s, the last of which was amended filing by you, were submitted on January 25 and 31 and February 22 and 27, 2024, respectively. Calaveras County's SEIU 1021 rank and file employees should demand an answer from you immediately to this question. Supervisor Follendorf, did you pocket some of my union dues following the 2020 election? My name is Christopher Butner, publisher of Calaveras2024election.com. Thank you.
Mr. Segal.
Good morning. It's either 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on which clock you look at.
Get that a break.
I have an item that is a little different than what you usually hear. This is this comes from the movie The Secret, which is kind of a self-help type program. It's done by Christian D. Larson, which you can get a copy of just by Googling her name. I promise myself to be so strong that nothing can disturb my peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person I meet, to make all my friends feel that there is something worthwhile in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and make my opinion come true, to think only the best, to work only for the best and expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as I am about my own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievement of the future, to wear a cheerful expression at all times and give a smile to every living creature I meet, to give so much time to improving myself that I have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. To think well of myself and proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud word, but in great deeds. To live in the faith that the whole world is on my side, so long as I am true to the best that is in me. That's Christian D. Larson. And incidentally, you may know the premise of this is you get what you expect. Everything that you've achieved in this world, it came about after you expected it to be true. This not just about supervisors, it's about everybody. And you probably know that there is one supervisor that has lived this. And I thank you.
Thank you, Al. The Chair wants to recognize Calaveras County Poet Laureate Linda Torrance and West Point resident.
If they can each have their
I made a packet for you. Good morning. I'm Linda Toran, the Poet Laureate of Calaveras County, and I'm very happy to be here. Recently, I gave a report to the Friends of the Calaveras County Library, and I have another one I can, after I'm done. And so I thought I would give you the same report. If you open your folder, I've just put here at the very first thing, I'm making a call for poems from Calaveras County residents, because I plan to do, as I exit my term, a chapbook with poems from people in our community, in our county. That's been one of my projects, is community source poems. So if you could share that, that would be wonderful. And the very last page is an upcoming event. It's our 3rd annual Poetry Festival, June 29th. And that will be in Murphy's at the Native Sons of the Golden West Hall. And so I hope that you would like to be there and do that with us. I'm hoping that this will be an annual event. Applications are out now for the next Poet Laureate of Calaveras County. And so I'm exiting, but poetry is my life. So I'll continue doing what I always do. And that's in the report coming right after the call for poems. And so coming up after my term, I'll become the California Poet in the Schools. Our region hasn't had that for over 25 years. And so that'll be happening after my term. I'd like to share a poem. I do community source poems. And so I'd like to share, you have this in your packet, a community source poem for District 4. And I've done community source poems for districts 2, 3, and 4. Not to say that I haven't tried, but I don't have a community source poem from 1 and 5. And maybe that's because it's far away from me or whatever. So if you have anyone in your districts that could just give me a few words, phrases, comments about Calaveras County, I'd be glad to include yours too. Peace in the foothills. Abandoned farms across oak-dotted hillsides, gold rush dreams unfurl. Quiet open views echoing a more relaxed pace where Mark Twain learned to mine gold from words. Family names that still resound and echo, still breathe and whisper history. That's from District 4. And it has the people who contributed there. So those are there as well. You have also a page that talks about the community source poems. So you can share that. And I don't mind doing another one. Oops, I'll go quick. I've also submitted a poem I wrote to the California Poet Laureates program called Our California. And so I've submitted that to represent our county in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for all the work you do in our communities and our schools. Really appreciate it. Beautiful work. Other public comments in the room? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much. Move on to the consent agenda. Stacy.
Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Thank you. Is there anybody on the board who would like to pull an item off the consent agenda? Is there any staff? Sorry?
Item number 12, please.
Item number 12. Is there any staff that would like to pull an item? Is there any public that would like to pull an item off the consent agenda? Anybody online?
There are no online requests.
Very well. Entertain a motion for a consent agenda excluding item number 12.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Stopper. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Toffenelli. Madam Clerk, will you read the roll?
Roll call vote, District 1,
Yeah, aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4, aye. District 5.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Move on to item number 12. Good.
Yes,
sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Robert, why don't you come on up?
I pulled this item because, it's so contradictory in the narrative that's presented to us. It says this includes full and complete compensation, providing all labor, equipment, material, tools, and incidentals, including all markups for this coverage. This is the 60th change order that's we've had on this job. When did we start this job? Do you have a day we started this job or a month?
We awarded the contract in November of 2021.
Yeah, but we didn't start construction until,
It was in beginning of January, February with mobilization and different things.
so we're 2 years in with 60 change orders on this project. And this says it's full and complete compensation. And then it says it's an estimated unit price adjusted increase for the extra work of $9.50 a yard. And it's not to exceed this change order, not to exceed the allowance for this change order of 90,000, but it's only for 800, or for it's not supposed to go over 90,000 or $9.50 a cubic yard or $855,000. And then it goes on to say, if actual work is less than estimated amount, the change order will be reduced. If work or costs incurred beyond the estimated amount, will require an additional change order. So it says it's a full and complete compensation, but then it goes on to say, well, if it's not, then we're going to have to come back for another change order. I just doesn't sound complete to me. It sounds like we're looking at something that could be another change order for another 855,000 in 6 months from now when we finish the work that we're working on now. It just doesn't seem correct the way the verbiage is in this narrative. And then the other thing I have to say is this is all force account work, and the remainder of the job that we have left is going to be on force account. So we don't have any idea of remainder of this job, what the costs are going to be, because it's on force account. We had a bid for it. That's gone. We're just paying day by day for whatever the force account, what they use for day by day. Is that not correct?
But we are paying force account numbers for quite a bit of the work, yes.
Okay. So how are we going to maintain $855,000 for this force work on this force account?
Okay. Let
And
me,
not go over and come back and want another change order for the exact same work because they're over.
yes, let me introduce Howard Zabel from Dewberry, the project manager for our Bike and Trail project.
Morning, Howard.
Good morning, Board Supervisors. So some clarifications on the change order and the language. I can understand and appreciate the, confusion and what looks to be contradictory language. The language in the change order says full compensation. That is meant to be everything for the extra work bill that is under consideration under that change order. That language that's usual and customary language for force account change orders for, this type of public works project. To your question about force count work, yes, there is a lot of force count work on this project. It is not the entire rest of the project. What it is for the roadway, for one bid item, roadway excavation, which is a large portion of the work. So I don't know if that clears some of the questions up.
Okay, I'm concerned that the way it's written, that we don't have any control over this change order on the cost of it. It could escalate really quickly. And we've been faced with another change order for 90,000 cubic yards.
So,
I mean, right now, it's 855 for 90.
So the way that the amount, that amount, it is an estimated amount. The language of the change order reads that the actual amounts could be less. It cannot be more. The actual amount is billed on force account basis. That's time and materials. The way the budget was established by looking at an estimate of the remaining quantity of roadway excavation, which is 90,000 yards, and looking at the cost of that bid item for work that has been done on this contract to date. That differential, that's how that budget was determined. You are correct that it's not locked in, it's not absolute. When the force count work is performed, it could wind up costing more. So I cannot tell you that that's it no matter what. What I can say is that when this work is being performed, it's the job of the construction management team to manage that work to the best of, the best way they can so that it is done as efficiently as possible. So.
Yeah, those are my concerns and questions.
Stopper.
Thank you for bringing that to light, Mr. Toffenelli. Just moving forward in the future, there's apparently no guarantees on it, and I'm gonna struggle with any support for this project moving forward. If there's no, if the money is not cemented or written in stone, potentially mortgaging the future of Calaveras County on this.
Thank you. You have further question, Supervisor Toffenberg? I want to, Howard, just really quickly.
Yes.
This is in the budget that we were given.
It
and
is.
that this work has not occurred yet.
That is correct. It is in the budget. It was contemplated as extra work, is contemplated in all projects. And you are correct. None of this work has not yet been done. But it is scheduled to take place very, very shortly. So.
I think we all have concerns.
Yes, thank you.
It is, Howard, it is in the budget because we had a budget discussion and change, but this is part of not the original budget on this project, but this work is part of the original work that was estimated when we signed the contract in 2021, November 2021. This is part of the 14 million extra that we got from CTC that's going to be paying for this extra work. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Very well. Bring it back to the board. Is there a motion?
Move.
Moved by Supervisor Fallendorf. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but if it comes back for more money on this particular 90,000 cubic yards, I'm going to be probably not voting for it, but I'll second to get the job done.
There you go. We got a motion by Supervisor Fallendorf, a second by Supervisor Toffenelli. Would you please call the roll?
District 1,
Me. Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4. Aye. District 5.
No.
Passes 4-1-0. Very well. Does anybody need a quick break before we can go? 5-minute break. I will be back at 10:05. Not 9:05.
Okay.
Reconvening the meeting, we'll move on to regular agenda items. Item 14, Madam Clerk.
Item 14, informational item, administrative office, receive an update from American Legion Ambulance regarding ambulance tiered response.
Thank you. Come on.
Move that chair out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So good morning.
It's
on.
It's on. Sorry.
I have it off for you. You're good. Good morning, Chairman Garamendi and Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Michelle Tyre. I'm the Vice President of American Legion Ambulance, and I'm just basically here to share with you some updates that the ambulance company has been working on. We're looking at forwarding and making a two-tiered ambulance response system. And this is something that's kind of new for most of us in the foothills. However, it is a program that has been going on across the United States for many, many years. Kern County, Tulare County, Fresno County have been doing this in the state of California for almost 10 years. And we did start this program over in Amador County in April of 2022. So we have some experience with it, but it is a little bit different for the public in general. So a tiered ambulance system, what that means is currently in Calaveras County, all of our ambulances have a paramedic and an EMT on them. And so they're staffed advanced life support. In a tiered system, what you do now is not only do you have those advanced life support ambulances, but you also have basic life support ambulances, which is staffed with 2 EMTs. And you have a quick response vehicle, which in our company is our operations manager, who is a licensed paramedic. The reason for the tiered system is what we know statistically is approximately 12% of all 911 calls actually require a paramedic. So therefore, if you're sending a paramedic on every 911 call that comes through, you're sending an inappropriate resource. And for us in small communities with limited number of ambulances, we may be sending a paramedic to a call and then the very next call not have a paramedic available, and that call needed them. So we have designed this tiered system with the parameters that make sure that it's safe, that the appropriate resource goes to the appropriate call. How that's been done is there is a set of dispatch determinants that every PSAP dispatch center uses. We have a medical director for Mountain County's EMSA that has gone through all those dispatch determinants and has said these cases of dispatch determinants, it is appropriate to send a basic life support ambulance. So that is done. It is programmed into your ProQA system here at your Calaveras County Dispatch Center. And then when they take the call, the dispatchers take the call and they'll say, oh, this can go a basic life support, and they'll send that unit instead of an ALS unit. There is a lot of quality improvement, quality assurance that goes on after that is evaluated not only in the dispatch center, but then also by American Legion Ambulance. As the calls go through, we look at each individual one to make sure. Using statistics, since we implement it in Amador County, we started the program, like I said, in April of 2022. We've had just over 3,000 dispatches with our basic life support ambulance. Out of that 3,000, we've had 32 calls of which needed to be upgraded to an advanced ambulance. And out of those 32 calls, only 4 of those calls were found to be critical. So we have less than 2% of an error in margin. National average is 8. So I think we're doing pretty well with that. So why do we want to implement a tiered system? Like I said, it's the appropriate resource. We want to make sure that we aren't using our paramedics in cases that they don't need to be used. Being small rural areas, we're transporting people from our local hospitals to other hospitals. If we send a paramedic on that transfer and they're not needed, then that paramedic's not here to respond to a call within the county. So that's a system status issue. When COVID hit, COVID has made a huge change on healthcare, and EMS is no different. When COVID hit, it literally shut down all of our schools. Paramedics were not allowed to go into the hospitals to continue their training. And we're still at this point trying to catch up with that because schools were closed for about 1.5 years. So there is a huge shortage across the nation in paramedics. And then revenue. I mean, to be very honest, we're a private ambulance company. So when we bill insurance companies, we have to bill them for the appropriate level of service, no matter what the team is that went. So if we have a basic call, and even though we sent an advanced crew, we're still only getting paid that basic rate. So it is a revenue issue. So just to be very honest, people always ask, is it about the money? And yes, there is a portion that is about the money. So what would it mean for Calaveras County? We're looking at implementing this program. Our target is right around May 1st. Currently in Calaveras County, there are 3 24-hour advanced life support ambulances, one in Valley Springs, one in San Andreas, and one in Angels Camp. Those will remain the same. There will be no difference in those. Additionally, in San Andreas, we have a 12-hour advanced life support ambulance, and that one is currently being staffed about 4 days a week. Our BLS tiered ambulance would supplement that. So now we would still have a second ambulance in San Andreas 7 days a week. Just 3 of it would be basic, and then the other 4 would be advanced. So that way we keep that unit going. They would respond to any dispatch determinants that will determine that it's a code 2 response for a basic life support ambulance. So those are the calls they would be going to. And then they would also be helping with those interfacility transfers from our local hospital to Valley hospitals when the physician deems that a basic life support is appropriate. Currently, we do have a contract with you folks to do safety car transports for mental health, but we also use those basic transport ambulances for mental health transfers when it is deemed that that patient needs to go by an ambulance instead of a safety car. So that's where those functions would come in with that system change. So like I said, our implementation target is May 1st. We have been in discussions with Mountain County EMSA, who basically is where our provider agreement is, and we have to get approval from them in order to do that tiered system. So we have been given a preliminary okay from Mountain County. It still has to go to the JPA board for an official vote. But part of the requirement to implement that is to make sure that we inform our stakeholders of what we're trying to do and give you the opportunity to ask questions, share your concerns, and so forth. So we're here before you. We're going to go before the Fire Chiefs Association meeting tomorrow. Dr. Freeman, our medical director, is reaching out to your public health medical director so that they doctor to doctor can have that discussion. And then, of course, with Dispatch Center, which we've been working with already, and then Mark Twain Hospital. And then we will go through and do some remediating training with some of our EMTs. All of our EMTs in our company have had the initial training, but if they were assigned in the Calaveras unit, they haven't used that BLS system so much. So we'll do that. And then, of course, after it's implemented, I am free. I headed the program in Amador, and I will do the same here in Calaveras. I am free at any point. If anything happens, you have a question, you have a concern for the next year, 1.5 years, I will be available to meet one-on-one in real time when those incidents happen so that we can address everything right away. So with that, that's basically what I have. If you folks have any questions, I would be happy to answer any of them.
It was tough. Now you're our liaison to this. Any comments?
No, this has been working, and like she said, in Amador County, we've been aware of it since 2022, and they've done a great job over there. This does boil down to the lack of paramedics now since COVID hit. Paramedics, within even EMTs right now, although that's kind of coming up. The fire department has EMTs when they first respond there also. This is a program, I think, that it's being used in other places. So it's not just an experimental, and we're not the first one to do it. So and so the experience learned during the time other counties and other parts of this United States have been using it. We've learned from that. And so it is very difficult. But I would like you to explain a little bit, because you didn't mention copper. There's a contracted copper fire department there. So can you explain that a little bit so people that may be listening or from copper saying, oh, they didn't say anything about copper. Can you explain that a little bit about that?
Yes. So Copper Fire District does have paramedics, and there is a mutual aid contract, if you will, between us and Copper Fire in the fact of, with our provider agreement, if they get on scene and their medics are there, they stop the clock, the response clock for us, or at least extenuate it. There is, in speaking with, when we implemented it in Amador County, when we spoke with the only ALS agency there, we ended up getting an agreement with them that we could use their medics if our BLS unit went out there. And we haven't formally worked through that with Chief Herzog down in Copper Fire, but that would be something that we will be approaching. And again, I'm meeting with the fire chiefs tomorrow. So, that would be something that I would be discussing with them. And that fire district will remain the same. Their services will remain the same. We do use them on occasion as well. They are allowed to transport it with our provider agreement and our mutual aid. They're allowed to transport if there's an immediate need, or if we run out of ambulances. If the system gets so busy, they do have that capability. So of course, they're great partners, and we would continue to work with them.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody in copper.
Yes, no changes.
You are covered, this whole
Yes,
program.
no changes there. No.
And then
This
the other-
program is just ambulance transport. Yes.
And then the other item that has to do somewhat with this, not directly, but it did in the past. Interfacility transfers and going to cage cars instead of using ambulances, that took out of our whole county going into Napa or Sacramento, wherever else. It took a complete ambulance out of service to make a transport. So we went to transfer cars when it's allowed and prescribed by the doctor, the medical doctor on the scene at the hospital here. So can you just explain a little bit about that? Because we haven't gone into a whole lot of that.
The safety car program in general?
Yeah.
Yes. So, I've worked for American Legion Ambulance for 27 years. And when I first started, it was actually mostly sheriff's departments that transported any mental health patients from our local hospitals to a treatment facility. Over the years, there were more ambulances than there were deputies on the street at night. And so we slowly started helping doing the transports. And then eventually it just kind of became the ambulances did all the transports. What that did, however, as time went on, and mental health is now, we're experiencing it, we're recognizing it. It is something that has come across our country, and we are really now trying to address it, which kudos to everybody for doing that. But it put a strain on your ambulance services by having us transport a mental health patient in the back of an ambulance when they really didn't need that type of service. There was no care that was given to them from the EMS provider. It was a very expensive taxi, honestly. And so a few years ago, we started looking at how can we help with this problem. Our ambulances and our employees, they work 48-hour shifts. So that was a fatigue factor for them. So they were asking for assistance as well. Because when you take a mental health patient from one of your local hospitals and you're driving them to Santa Rosa at 2 o'clock in the morning and back, and then still running 911 calls the next day, it becomes a fatigue safety issue. But it's also not the appropriate resource. So we entered into a contract with Calaveras County and behavioral health. And now the physician on scene, if there is no medical need other than the mental health need, the physician on scene can, at the ER, can say they can go buy a safety car. Our safety car is if you envision a patrol car, that's kind of what it is. There's no markings on it, but there is a cage in the back. There's safety locks on the doors. We have drivers that most of them, all but one actually, are retired law enforcement or fire service. And so they go, and it's a more relaxed situation for that mental health patient to go in a car as opposed to an ambulance. And it's actually quite safer. Mental health patients, thank goodness, most of them are very accommodating and wanting the assistance. And so they freely get in the car, but there are occasions that we come up with combative ones. And if you put them in the back of an ambulance in a 4x4 box, excuse me, with a person back there, they can hurt themselves and they can hurt our crews. So the safety car by far has been a great success. It's been started in February of 2023. So we just completed our 1 year. I know Alan McNanny, our president, is preparing a 1-year synopsis that he will be sharing with all of you so that you'll be able to see how many miles, how many hours of ambulances that we've saved, but it's been a lot.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
The other thing caveat to that too is in an ambulance when transferred, we had several of them bail before they even got to the destination, whatever, but slow down to a stop sign or a red light, they bail. And then you got to chase them and run them down. But the safety car transfer seems to be working pretty well.
So up until January 1st of this year, ambulance companies were actually held liable and responsible if somebody bailed out and was injured. Not only the company, but also the personnel on the vehicle. And thankfully, there's a law now that just went into effect in January.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Quick question.
Yes.
Always got to ask it. Tell me
Absolutely.
about a response up in West Point and Railroad upcountry.
Mhm.
And I know you cover that from both sides of the river.
We do. And I just actually had a constituent that sent me an email yesterday asking me some questions about West Point. West Point, in the past, we had an ambulance up there. We haven't had one up there for quite a few years. So the primary response comes from Pioneer in Amador County, which our Pioneer station is 1 mile south of Defender grade. So it's easy for them to pop over and get over there. Secondary response would be from the ALS unit in San Andreas, but that's more if it's on the Wilseyville side, not so much the West Point side. And then our system status, our posting plan moves if the Pioneer unit is gone, our unit in Sutter Hill starts moving up to Pioneer. So we kind of backfill. But on average, our provider contract says that our code 3 responses in Pioneer, 90% of the time have to be met within 20 minutes. And on average, honestly, we're about 19 minutes from Pioneer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Always got to ask.
No, that's totally fine. And like I said, I just had somebody ask me, so.
Very well. Any other comments from the board?
Chair, could I ask a quick question?
Certainly. Supervisor Hubbard.
Michelle, could I ask, how do you interface with Ebbets Pass Fire? Or do you?
So Ebbets Pass Fire, Calaveras County is actually broken up into 3 zones. And so American Legion has 2 of the zones and Ebbets Pass Fire has the 3rd zone.
Right.
So pretty much our interaction with them would be on mutual aid. So if we are drawn down in the system in our 2 zones that we cover, Ebbets moves down and helps out and vice versa. If they have a bunch going on, then we kind of move up towards their zone as well. So it's really just a mutual aid that works, hand in hand, like your fire departments do when they're crossing boundaries from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one more quick question and we'll move on. But tell me about, do you rehearse with our fire and our sheriff's department for mass casualty events?
Before COVID, yes, we did a lot. And in fact, today there is a active shooter drill that is going on with the sheriff's department, fire departments, and then American Legion is there as well. But yes.
Thank you. This is not an action item, but if there's anybody in the room who'd like to speak to this. Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
will.
You owe me money.
Okay, I'll let him know that too.
Have to report that as a gift.
Sorry, but if it ever happens, I'll report it out.
All right, moving on to item 15, Madam Clerk.
Item 15, resolution planning, conduct a public hearing, adopt a notice of exemption from CEQA, and adopt a resolution approving general plan amendment 2023-053 from resource production to working lands for Eric and Melissa Cisco.
Thank you very much, Gabriel, and here, come on up. Just a couple seconds. We'll call you up.
Okay.
Just, you could grab a seat right there. Get you in just a second, Mrs. Ready? All right. I am opening a public hearing. Gabriel?
Good morning, Chair Garamendi, CEO, County Council. Before I go into the PowerPoint presentation, I'm just going to tell the story because when I'm looking at all the information that board members have to digest before every meeting, I think sometimes it needs to be simplified. If we can simplify this for you, I think it will be a lot better. You spend your time on other important things. Now, this item went before the Planning Commission on March 8th. And the genesis of the story is that there was a lot line adjustment application filed. In order for this lot line adjustment application to be exercised, one of the conditions of approval is that we do a zone change and a general plan amendment. And I'm going to go to this particular description here, kind of shows you where it says 8.7 acre portion proposed for amendment. That portion has been asked to be added to that little piece on the right. So, and the next slide actually shows a little bit better. So the lot line adjustment would remove that little line where the arrow on the left graphic is pointing, erase that line, and then follow the line on Campo Seco Road. And by the way, this project is in District 1. Mr. Tofanelli's district. So the essence of this is it makes that little piece to the right a little bigger, while it makes a little piece to the southwest a little smaller, but it doesn't change the minimum required acreage for the big parcel. It makes the smaller parcel a little bit bigger, but to facilitate the lot line adjustment, this process is required. So items number 15 and 16 are related. Item number 15 has to do with general plan amendment because the property's general plan needs to be changed to be consistent with the little piece to the right. And when changing the general plan amendment, when changing the general plan designation, we also need to change the zone from RA to let's see, I wrote that down somewhere. From from A1 to RA. So a general plan from RP, resource production, to working lands, and then the zone change from A1 to RA. And it's just for that little piece in question. Some of these aerial photos of the site, you kind of see how the vegetation, existing vegetation on the property is. It's undeveloped. This map shows just the land use designations in our existing general plan. This one shows the zoning so that we bring the brown to match the brown. I take it away from the green. And this shows the exact portion, piece of the property in question. So what item 15 does, the request for item 15 is to change the general plan designation from resource production to working lands. Then item number 16 that comes after this would be to change the zoning designation of the property. So went through the typical project routing, 30 days, we got comments from agencies. We prepared a notice of exemption under CEQA. And like I mentioned earlier, went to the Planning Commission on the 8th of February. We have to make findings when we are recommending or making changes of general plan or zoning. Some of the findings would be general plan consistency, consistent with neighborhood and adjacent land uses and zoning. CEQA exemption promotes public health, safety, and general welfare. So that is item number 15. So the recommendation in item number 15 is for the Board of Supervisors to conduct a public hearing, adopt the notice of exemption from CEQA, adopt a resolution approving a general plan amendment from resource production to working lands. And then the later action would be zoning specific. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
The owner here, are you the owner?
Yes, no.
Michelle?
Melissa Cisco. Melissa Cisco.
Oh, yeah, hi. You guys own both properties, the one that's currently with the house and the well on it. That's like 6 acres.
Right.
And you're wanting to increase 15 acres and reduce the other property. You own that property also.
We do not own the other property.
You do not own the other property. So you're going to purchase that property?
Correct.
Okay, so once this goes through and it's all one APN, then you're going to purchase the property. If you don't, do you already have an agreement in place?
We already have an agreement in place and we've given them a monetary deposit pending this.
Okay, so the
hopeful
sole
approval.
purpose is for you to increase the size of the property you live on now.
Right,
From about 7 acres, to about 15 and a half.
right, because that's on our side of the road and they can't really use it. I mean,
Okay.
they're not really using it. It's
So this whole thing is contingent then on, because the other property owners aren't here, contingent upon you purchasing that property.
right, but they also joined in the application.
Yeah, I mean, they signed a lot line.
They just signed, okay,
Yes.
okay. Those are my questions. It wasn't really, I tried to go through it, but
I know.
thank you.
No, Supervisor Toffenali, I had a similar question. Normally, the applicant for the land that's being rezoned is the one that's applying. So, but you're telling me they're co-applicants.
Yes.
So we got that covered because that did jump out to me as well.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, in the case of a lot line adjustment, we have to get cooperation between the two parties involved, especially if it's separately.
That's
owned.
fine. I think the point that Supervisor Toffenali and I were speaking about is we're rezoning someone else's land,
Yeah,
someone else's property.
I know.
So
Yeah,
you're telling me we're
Yeah.
good.
Right, they also
They-
joined an application.
Okay.
they are
I
aware.
don't, because generally we don't try to rezone our neighbors.
Yeah. No, they are aware.
Very well. Any further comments from public? Very well. I am closing the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the board for a motion
I move this item, Mr. Chair.
by Supervisor Toffenali.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Stopper. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Oh, roll call vote, District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4. Aye. District 5.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Move on to item 16. I am opening a public hearing.
Good.
I
So
get to use my
item
mouse.
16 is just a carbon copy of item 15, except in this one, we're not asking for the GP because you already approved that. We're asking for the zone change that comes along with it. And I'm not going to go through, it's the same graphics, same information, but I'm going to just go directly to the recommendation on this one. So same thing, adopt notice of exemption from CEQA, and then an ordinance amending the zoning of the property in question, that little piece to on the top left, from general agriculture A1 to residential agriculture RA. So, and the analysis in the staff report talks about what is the difference between an A1 and an RA. We're doing this to make the larger piece to the right to be consistent with the piece that's about to be added onto it, so that it's all one zoning, one general plan amendment consistent.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I don't have any.
I have the same question I had before. They are signatories on this application. We're not rezoning something for
Yes.
someone.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the public? Applicant like to say anything? Very good. I'm closing the public hearing. And I'll bring it back to the board for a motion in second.
I'll move this item.
Moved by Supervisor Toffenelli, second. Second by Supervisor Stopper. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Roll call vote, District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4. Aye. District 5.
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gabriel, we'll give you, I guess you're up next on 17 as well.
Yes.
Item 17, resolution planning, conduct a public hearing, adopt a sequel notice of exemption, and adopt a resolution approving general plan amendment 2023-058 from resource production to working lands for the Carson Hill Gold Mining Corporation.
Thank you. I am opening a public hearing. Madeline, I think you've got the ball.
Give me just a moment where we've. It's okay. Good morning. Madeline Flandreau, Planner 3. I am presenting project number 2023-058, General Plan Amendment for Carson Hill Gold Mining Corporation. So the project proposes to amend the general plan land use designation of an 11-acre portion of assessors parcel number 064-015-007 from resource production to working lands for consistency with the adjacent parcel to the south in order to complete a lot line adjustment. This is just a general plan amendment and not also combined with the zoning amendment like the previous presentation. The subject parcel is located at 5141 Highway 49 in Angels Camp. It's approximately 69 acres in size. And I'm sorry, I highlighted the 11-acre portion that we are amending here today, but not the entire parcel. It extends to the east. You can see the yellowish orange parcel boundaries that go further to the east and cut into the pit at the Carson Hill Rock Products mine. The operator has closed the mine site with no intent to resume and is currently working on fulfilling the requirements of the reclamation plan. This 11-acre portion is outside of the pit, as you can see here, and has not had any mining activities occur on it. The project will help facilitate the removal of this portion of the subject parcel from the mine's boundaries in order to sell it after approval of the lot line adjustment. So the resource production designation shown here in light green identifies those lands for ag operations, timber, and mineral resource production. It's intended for parcels that are 40 to 160 acres in size. The proposed land use designation is working lands, which is the designation of the parcel to the south, which identifies land suitable for smaller scale resource production intended for parcels of 20 to 40 acres in size. The parcel is zoned A1ME, which is general agriculture with a mineral extraction combining zone that's shown here in the bright green with the hatched marks. The A1 zone, as you know, is intended to be the main resource production zone for general farming and ranching practices and is consistent with both the resource production and working lands designations. The mineral extraction combining zone applies to all existing and future mining operations that require a reclamation plan. So this is the proposed lot line adjustment. This was received by the County Surveyor's Office in July of 2023 and is awaiting approval of this general plan amendment to complete the process. The lot line adjustment proposes to reduce the subject parcel by the 11 acres, which will be added to the adjacent parcel to the south, assesses parcel number 064-015-005. If this portion is amended, the landowners could just adjust the boundaries between the two parcels without any land use designation conflicts. The application was routed for 30 days to various county departments, local public agencies, and state agencies. Letters were received from Public Works and Environmental Management Agency, but both had no comments. A letter was also received from Caltrans, just with their standard requirements for an encroachment permit, should any work be done within the right-of-way, which there is none proposed. Staff also initiated the 90-day tribal consultation period for general plan amendments pursuant to the requirements of Senate Bill 18, but no responses were received from any of the tribes. This activity is covered by the common sense exemption that CEQA applies only to projects that have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. Amending the land use designation of the subject parcel from resource production to working lands will not result in any more intensive permitted uses being allowed to occur, but will instead facilitate the removal of a portion of the subject property from the Carson Hill Rock Products mine property through the lot line adjustment. The proposed land use designation is less intensive than the current land use designation, and this amendment and the subsequent lot line adjustment will not interfere with the landowner's ability to reclaim the remaining portion of the subject parcel. So this item went to the Planning Commission on February 8th, during which there were no members of the public that commented on the proposal, and the commission voted recommending the board approve the project. So to conclude, staff finds the proposed general plan amendment from resource production to working lands is consistent with the general plan. The general plan findings have been met. The change is from a more intense land use designation to a less intensive one. No comments were received from the tribes during tribal consultation, and the project has found to be exempt from CEQA. And I believe John Baker, on behalf of BHP, the applicant, is on the line if you have any specific questions about the site as well.
Thank you. The applicant like to make a statement?
One second.
Mr. Baker, go ahead.
It is frozen.
All right. Sorry about that, Mr. Baker. Very well. Bringing it back, Madam.
I was just gonna say,
Counsel.
Mr. Baker, we can hear you if you wanted to make any comment.
Can you? My computer is acting.
Oh, I jinxed it.
Okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Baker. We have a specific question. We'll direct it to the planning staff.
Okay.
Any questions from the board? Are there any in the room? Baker, your mic's back on?
Is it? Can you hear me?
Yes. There you go.
Oh, I apologize. But our company computers do not like Zoom for some reason, so I apologize. No, there's not really anything I want to say other than this is part and parcel to an agreement we made with the previous owner, where the title was kind of messed up in that area. So the title, we had to take it into our ownership and then legal lot adjust it, and then so we can then convey it back to him. So this is part of that.
Thank you very much. Very well. If there's nothing else, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for either questions or a motion.
I move.
Moved by Supervisor Follendorf. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Hubbard. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Roll call vote, District 1,
Yeah.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
and District 5.
Aye.
Very well.
Stacy, every once in a while you could swap that, start with District 5 and go.
Very well. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 18. Madam Clerk.
Item 18, resolution planning, 1, conduct a public hearing, 2, adopt the CEQA negative declaration, and 3, approve conditional use permit 2022-020 for the Calaveras Waste Recovery Systems Transfer Station located at 3543 Double Springs Road, Valley Springs, APN 040004021.
Thank you. I am opening a public hearing. Madeline, is this yours?
Madeline.
Okay. Okay. So similar to the item that Mr. Elliott was presenting, I am presenting both items 18 and 19 together. 18 being the conditional use permit and 19 being the zoning amendment. The conditional use permit cannot be approved without approval of the zoning amendment. So the project number 2022-020 zoning amendment and conditional use permit for the California Waste Recovery Systems, which I will be referring to as Cal Waste. The applicant is requesting a zoning amendment from Business Park, which is M4, to General Industrial, which is M2, and approval of a conditional use permit to expand the operations at the existing Cal Waste solid waste transfer station in Valley Springs. Proposed operations will increase the permitted volume of materials received each day, upgrading from a medium volume to a large volume transfer station. The subject property, assessors parcel number 040-004-021 is shown here, located at 3524 Double Springs Road, just northwest of the intersection of State Route 12 and 26. So Cal Waste has been operating this transfer station since 2018 under a solid waste facility permit for the purpose of consolidating and transferring solid waste to permitted out-of-county disposal facilities. The facility currently accepts mixed municipal waste and green materials. Currently, operations peak at 21 vehicles per day. There is no general public or self-haul vehicles that are currently accepted. So the project proposes to increase the volume of waste accepted, which is currently under 100 tons per day, to a maximum of 250 tons per day. This is the site plan showing the area where the improvements are proposed, shown in red. Hopefully you can see this a little better here, including an outdoor construction and demolition processing line, which is shown as A and E, the installation of a concrete wall to close off a section of the processing area in C, and outdoor concrete block bunkers for storage of recyclables, which is shown in D. Commercial PACL vehicles that collect and haul commercial organics will unload the organics inside the transfer station in the designated bunker, shown in B. A limited amount of construction activities would occur within the boundaries of the existing site over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. And be limited to the installation of the concrete bunkers and the dividers and some other minor site improvements to aid in the operations and material sorting. In the zoning code, a transfer station for municipal refuse and recycling centers for paper, cans, and glass are permitted by right in the M4 zone. However, a transfer station other than municipal refuse and recycling centers handling materials other than paper, cans, and glass is a conditional use in the M2 zone. So after reviewing their current solid waste facility permit and the fact that the transfer station is proposing to process more than municipal refuse and recycling more than paper, cans, and glass, staff determined that approval of a zoning amendment to M2 and a conditional use permit would be required. So the number of vehicles per day traveling to the site is expected to increase from a peak of 21 vehicles per day up to 84, which would include self-haul vehicles, commercial collection vehicles, transfer trucks, and potentially from 3 to 5 new employees. These vehicles would utilize the adjacent roadways in the vicinity, including state routes 26 and 12, which are designed to accommodate high traffic flows. The general plan land use designation is industrial. Typical uses include light and heavy industrial activities such as processing, packaging, machinery repair, distribution, research and development, and public and quasi-public uses. The surrounding land uses include a mix of commercial and industrial, including the PG&E's Valley Springs substation to the north, a storage yard to the east, and a self-storage facility to the south. The M4 zone, the current zone of the parcel, provides areas for commerce and industry in community centers, community and special plan areas, and the prime industrial corridor. The M2 zone, which is proposed, is intended to provide areas for general industrial land use, including a variety of more manufacturing, service businesses, and public uses. In addition, the M2 zone allows for more intensive manufacturing uses with approval of a CUP. However, the site is already fully developed with the Cal Waste transfer station, and no additional or future uses are proposed. The current use of the parcel will not change, only the capacity of the transfer station. So the application was circulated for 30 days to various county departments and local public and state agencies. Caltrans submitted comments requesting additional information regarding the vehicles that would be entering and exiting the facility. A response was sent explaining that the anticipated maximum traffic at the project site was 84 vehicles per day. After reviewing this information, Caltrans responded that they had no further comments or concerns. Comments were also received from the Environmental Management Agency, which included conditions for permits such as an authority to construct from the Air District and a CUPA permit as needed. The applicant is also required to have an active and current full solid waste facilities permit from EMA for the proposed solid waste operations prior to commencing the expanded operations. Comments were also received from the Public Works Department, which included their standard conditions requiring that the project meet the requirements of the county road ordinance, encroachment ordinance, grading and drainage ordinance, and the road impact mitigation ordinance. These are all included as conditions in the resolution for the conditional use permit, which will need to be completed prior to validating the permit. And in addition, one email was received from the landowner of an adjacent parcel to the southeast, which is a vacant parcel that's part of this industrial subdivision. The comment included a list of concerns, primarily regarding the loss of value to their parcel due to odor and pests and increased traffic. However, the facility currently operates under their solid waste facilities permit, which regulates the site for compliance with state standards. There are daily inspections by the operator and monthly inspections by the Environmental Management Agency, which would identify any violations or nuisance and require immediate corrective actions. And there are also requirements through the permit, such as storage of organics cannot exceed 48 hours, which would reduce the potential for objectionable odors from organic material storage. So as proposed, this project conforms to the general plan, is consistent with general plan goal PF3 of the public facilities element, which encourages cost-effective integrated solid waste management and systems emphasizing waste reduction and recycling. In addition, implementation measure C-1B from the land use element requires that the county favorably consider projects which minimize greenhouse gases. Part of the purpose of expanding this facility is to provide additional options to divert organic waste and other recyclable materials from the landfills, which is in line with both state and local greenhouse gas reduction goals. So pursuant to CEQA guidelines, an initial study and negative declaration was prepared by the De Novo Planning Group and circulated from June 23rd to July 30th in 2023. The 30-day comment period was extended as De Novo updated the noise section to include an acoustical analysis of the proposed construction demolition processing line. This update did not require recirculation of the document, as this new information was added to make an insignificant modification, as project impacts to noise remained less than significant. Comments were received from CalRecycle, Caltrans, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and De Novo made some minor revisions to the initial study to address these comments. So the item was heard by the Planning Commission on September 8th, 2023, during which no members of the public commented on the proposal, and the Planning Commission voted recommending the board approve the project. The item was scheduled to come before the board in October. However, the item was pulled after concerns were expressed regarding the CEQA analysis for the project, in particular with regards to traffic impacts. So subsequently, Cal Waste hired the transportation consulting firm Fair and Peers in November to conduct a vehicle miles traveled assessment in order to supplement the analysis in the initial study. The assessment asserts that the proposal to include self-hauling by the general public would not require residents to use the facility. It's providing another option besides driving to the Rock Creek landfill in order to dispose of wastes that are not currently accepted at other county transfer stations. A new waste disposal facility is simply increasing the choice of facility location, not increasing the amount of waste generated by the county. So given this, the assessment evaluated the distance between all of the community areas in the county and the Rock Creek landfill compared to the Cal Waste facility. So this is shown in table 5 of the assessment, which is attached to the initial study. And Fair and Peers determined that the average driving distance per round trip for the Rock Creek landfill is 72.5 miles versus 45.9 miles for the project. Therefore, the assessment concluded that the proposed project would reduce vehicle miles traveled generated in the county overall, as it would provide an alternative disposal facility that is closer to most of the community areas than the existing Rock Creek landfill. The supplemental VMT analysis further supports and reinforces the conclusions of the initial study that the proposed project would result in a less than significant impact relative to vehicle miles traveled. The results of the supplemental VMT analysis have been incorporated into an updated January 2024 final version of the initial study and negative declaration. Only the transportation section was amended. Per section 1507 3.5 of CEQA, the updated draft did not require circulation, as this is new information that was added to the initial study merely to clarify, amplify, or make insignificant modifications to the document. And per the recommendation of the county CEO, this item was brought back to the Planning Commission on February 8th of 2024 for review of the VMT assessment and the revised initial study, during which the Planning Commission voted recommending the board approve the project. So in conclusion, the project as proposed conforms to the applicable goals and policies of the County General Plan and Title 17. The proposed M2 zone is a consistent zone in the industrial land use designation. The project is found to be compatible with the surrounding commercial and industrial land uses and zoning in the general vicinity. The proposal is to expand operations through some minor additions, so the subject property is adequate in land area to accommodate the proposed use and was found to have safe and adequate access with no site improvements required. Although there was one objection to the approval of this project from an adjacent landowner, no major development or substantially new use is being proposed as part of this application, which is regularly inspected by the county for compliance. And we have Ben Ritchie from De Novo Planning on the line to answer any questions regarding the initial study, as well as Carly Hoyt from Fair and Peers, who conducted the VMT assessment, if you have specific questions about either of those documents.
That's it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. Would the applicant like to make a statement?
Good morning, Chair Garamendi and board members. I'm Neil Edgar on behalf of Cal Waste. Just want to add to the excellent analysis, very thorough work that's been done on behalf of this project. I think it speaks volumes, including the additional work that was done to address Caltrans questions on the project. I think it'll serve the county well in meeting their requirements under SB 1383 to divert organic waste, as Madeline mentioned. So meeting that community need. The facility is the right size to do that. It's not oversized or trying to be too large, and it's got a great central location, which will help reduce those vehicle miles traveled for those residents who want to take advantage of its location. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I understand Supervisor Tuffanelli has a few.
Now we are. Thank you very much. Questions for the applicants or?
Natalie, can we go back to the slide?
Sure.
Is that too late?
No.
Go back?
Not at all.
Sorry. Can we go back to the slides? I want to go to the specific one that had up there, the traffic, the number of route trips from 21 to 84. I think it said.
Is that in the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, from 21 to 84. So my question is, right now, 63 vehicles a day are going to Galt versus this facility.
Yeah, this is an estimate, and I agree it's probably optimistic that we'll see that many users immediately, but it is designed to address the potential for use in this part of the county.
Those numbers were used for CEQA, were they not? 21 to 84. So do we have any verification of those numbers is my question. If we're claiming 63 vehicles a day are going to Galt and now they're going to all come here.
These are vehicles that are going currently to Rock Creek landfill. Most of them are public. These are public self-haul vehicles that can't currently use the facility. So they would be community members that would be going to the facility, not Cal Waste vehicles that would be now traveling to Galt. These would be local vehicles that.
So those would be local vehicles. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, those are those medium duty, light duty vehicles. So pickup trucks, people hauling trailers that might bring their materials to this facility.
Including the 12 heavy duty vehicles. They would now be coming to Valley Springs. What you're saying, this is your estimate on those vehicles instead of going to Rock Creek. Coming to your facility in Valley Springs, none of those are going to Galt, because I know you transfer to Galt. And you were doing separation there and then bringing it back to our landfill.
Those 12 heavy duty vehicles represent what is mostly currently going to the facility. They're already coming there. So that total there, those are the entire 84, and 21 of the 21 vehicles that are currently going there include those 12 heavy duty vehicles. We don't expect a lot more heavy duty vehicle traffic, only local, smaller, light duty and medium duty vehicles.
So you will continue to have vehicles travel to Galt, use the Galt facility, and then come back and use Rock Creek. That will still be happening. That won't change any of that at all.
Yeah, what's currently going to Galt or organic materials that may be taken to other locations for processing, that would continue. Although those organic materials are not currently being managed there, they would be an additional transfer to a location that can manage them on and, you know, remove them as is required from the landfill. Sure, exactly.
I'm Jack Fiore. I'm the CAO with California Waste. The additional 63 vehicles per day, well, just set aside the 3 to 5 new employees. So talking about just the top 3 items, the 12 heavy duty vehicles, I would say 7 or 8 of those exist today. Those are our trucks that leave to go out and collect our routes. The material they bring back is put into transfer trailers, and those are hauled away either to out-of-county landfills or to Galt for recyclables processing. The new vehicles are as Neil said, are the lion's share, almost all of the 42 plus 32, which are the light duty vehicles, the cars and pickups of county residents that would be coming in. And 30 medium duty would be the 2 to 4 ton dump trucks that contractors might come in with that currently do not come in as well, because we're not permitted to take any public or contractor traffic. So those are the majority of the new ones.
And those numbers are based on Rock Creek numbers and the other transfer stations that people may not go to Paloma or.
Actually, no, those numbers are based on when the design capacity was changed or is we're requesting to change from 100 tons to 250. That at 150 tons, the determination had been estimated of 150 new tons a day. How many of those are going to be large trucks? How many are going to be medium trucks? How many will be small trucks? So they were a best estimate of traffic that will conceptually produce 150 tons per day that are now going either to Rock Creek, possibly out of county, or to possibly Red Hill, or to your transfer stations. But the transfer station traffic, we're really not expecting to see much of that, because that's the best fiscal advantage for your residents now. They can go to the transfer stations or to Rock Creek at no charge. So we're not.
My point. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so no, we aren't anticipating a great migration of those, other than, maybe the guy down the street for convenience.
So then my next question is, I'm reading the narrative. And I don't know how much of this narrative was put together by our staff, or part of the CUP was taken out of it to put in there. The concern I have is this volume being increased, where it's coming from, because I'm reading the narrative about where it's coming from, and it specifically says recyclable materials from landfills, plural fills. We only have one landfill. So is it, when I read landfills, that means other counties, landfills. We'd be taking in material from other counties. And that's not gonna pass for me.
I didn't bring my papers, so excuse me.
We're looking at second paragraph. Cal Waste stated purpose for expanding this facility to establish a method to divert organic or other recyclable materials from landfills, including food waste, recovered wood, inert materials, and metals, and so forth. But it says specifically landfills.
So may I, if you don't mind? It's diverting it from landfills, which at this time we do have one landfill here, but Cal Waste does move a lot of the other solid waste to other landfills in the state as per the contract we have.
They don't bring it
So
here
that-
from
but that's not what it's saying. It's saying it's diverting it from them.
Right, okay, so we're in the second paragraph.
So yeah, it is worded correctly. I could see how it sounds.
This is material that's otherwise being buried today,
Yes,
that will no longer be buried.
per state laws passing, and even if we do have exemptions, we should still try not.
The duplicity of landfills, plural, or the pluralness of landfills. There is. I'm sorry. I apologize. There is waste in Calaveras County that leaves the county beyond ours.
I
mean,
understand that.
Yeah, so
But
the
we don't bring
contractors.
other waste in from other counties to our landfill.
No, but
And way this is written, no. He disagrees with me, but I'm reading what it specifically says,
Yeah.
diverting from landfills.
Yeah.
Right, so I think the intention, and Maddie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think regardless of the wording, the intention is to state that it is taking waste that would otherwise go to a landfill or landfills and bringing it here instead. Correct.
So that verbiage, can we put that in there, please? So it's clear. I'm sorry, I want it to be specifically clear.
Perhaps, well, just to be clear, Supervisor Toffenali, you want
You're
the
the lawyer.
staff report to be amended? Or the,
Well, if it's in the CUP, then I want landfills. I want to be specifically clear. There's diverting our waste from other landfills.
so I don't
And
know
I
that.
understand that's what it's supposed to say, but when you read it over, it
Supervisor
could be looked at in a different way, is what I'm pointing out.
Supervisor Toffenali, if I may just interject, one way we can actually do that is the next item, which is the CUP. If there's not currently a condition of approval, that specifically states what happens where, we can include that as a condition of approval. We can do that.
That'll work. I just wanted to be specifically clear. I understand what the verbiage was and the whole thing, but reading it can be looked at in a different way.
My recommendation would be, to the extent that language is in the CUP, which I haven't been able to get there yet to clarify or to confirm that, but to the extent that language is mirrored in the CUP itself, perhaps we could just add a little bit onto the first clause of that sentence to where it says something to the, along the lines of, to divert organic and other recyclable materials, which would otherwise go to landfills. Would that?
That'll work.
Okay, thank you.
As long as the other board members agree with it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Good. Any other questions from the board? I have a quick question for the CEO. How is this will this have any material financial impact on Rock Creek and our other programs?
We don't believe that this will financially impact Rock Creek or other programs. And we also do believe that this will help support our effort to comply with SB 1383.
Nice. If anything, it benefits financially, because we aren't doing the work in that capacity.
Just reducing.
Yeah.
I was concerned that one of the things we were looking at was just trips to Rock Creek, a lot of that stuff you could drop in San Andreas. Refrigerators and things like that. Very well, then if there's no further questions for the applicants or staff from the board, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Is there any public comment on this issue, this item? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Stopper.
With the amendment that Mr. Toffanelli has requested, do you have something put together?
I'm not sure whether that language, I sort of doubt that exact language is reflected in the CUP.
I'm not finding it.
Okay, but to the extent it is, if we could add that clarification that it is waste diverted from other land that would otherwise go to.
Yes.
A different, thank you.
So we have a motion with the amendment included.
If
it's not in there, so we'll make sure that's in there. Supervisor Toffanelli is a second.
Roll call vote?
Yes, let's go in reverse this time.
No.
Trying to accommodate all the board.
That wasn't my vote, but
District 5.
Mr. 5 or District 5?
District 5.
Aye.
District 4. Aye. District 3.
Aye.
District 2.
Aye.
District 1.
Aye.
Carries 5-0 in reverse. Very well, we will move on to item number 19.
We're doing. Okay.
Yeah, we got to do public hearing on both of them. So I open up public hearing on item 19.
So just to reiterate, the presentation I gave previously was also for this item, the zoning amendment from M4 to M2, which without the conditional use permit, the project really can't go forward. This is a tandem thing that must occur as it's a conditional use in the M2 zone.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make a statement? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board. And any questions from the board? We're closing a public hearing. Madam Council, you look.
Oh, no, I was just going to clarify. There's no public comment online, is there, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. No public comment online, no public comment in the room. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Stopper, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Toffanelli. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll, and you can read it in one more round.
Okay, thank you. District 1. District 1.
Turned it off. I thought we were going backwards.
That was just a one-time stunt.
Okay, good.
Aye.
District 2.
Aye.
District 3.
Aye.
District 4.
Aye.
District 5.
Aye.
Carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, madam. We're going to take a 3-minute break and let everybody stretch their legs and then we'll start up again. Thank you. Any Board of Supervisors meeting? We are on item 20. Madam Clerk.
Item 20, informational item, planning, receive a presentation on the general plan annual work program and provide direction on priorities.
Thank you. Gabriel?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam CEO, County Council. So this is the annual general plan work program, and this is something that right. So the general plan implementation measure LU1A requires the planning director to provide the board with annual work plan that does the following things: establishes priorities for completing programs identified in the general plan, identifies staffing and funding needs for the priorities set by the Board of Supervisors, reports on the status of completed programs and projects, and projects when remaining programs will be implemented. On January 21, 2020, the supervisors gave direction to staff to work on the following topics: countywide zoning map update, comprehensive zoning ordinance update, Valley Springs and Copper community plans, GHG baseline, vacation rental ordinance, special event ordinance update, RIM and benefit basing fee updates, farmland mapping, traffic impact study guidelines, infill database and incentives, oak woodland mitigation program, discovering traffic resource production conversion mitigation program. Of those items listed, the following are the completed tasks. Zoning ordinance of, oops, I skipped one. Zoning map, let me go back, another slide, okay. Zoning map update, that's done. The Valley Springs Community Plan, that's done. Farmland mapping, done. Traffic impact study guidelines, done. And then we have the ongoing tasks. Zoning ordinance update that is currently being heard by the Planning Commission. Copper Community Plan, we've had 3 Copper Community meetings. We've come to a consensus on what might be an acceptable plan to all parties involved. The greenhouse gas reduction plan, we've been through several Planning Commission meetings. The item is now currently with our consultants, and they're going to be able to quantify some of the recommendations that the Planning Commission made that were over and beyond the recommendation of the consultants when they gave us their numbers, showing that we actually do comply with our 1990 numbers, lowering our GHG output by 40% of 1990 numbers for compliance by 2035 or 2030.
Should I wait for any questions, Mr. Chair, or?
I mean, you can't interrupt me.
Please go ahead, Ben.
Okay. With the consultants that we're going back and redoing the numbers, are those the same ones that perform the environmental impact report?
We have an environmental impact report for the general plan. We don't have a
Greenhouse gas reduction plan.
We don't have a CEQA document yet for that.
We don't.
Yeah, we will be getting one.
But we will be, so we have to go through the process of getting one.
Yeah, we would have to.
Well, that gave us an open door for some different recommendations on the greenhouse gas emissions numbers and how to work them. Because we could have given direction on what we wanted them to do, especially when it came to assimilation that we already have with all the woodlands and everything else in Calaveras County.
Yeah.
And that could be part of the study.
I-
And that's,
Are you-
that was part of the problem.
Are you talking about carbon sequestration by any
Yeah.
chance? Okay,
Yeah.
well,
I mean,
Um,
that's something we could have given direction
And
on.
I kind of
Yeah.
thought we did.
Well, I kind of
Yeah.
thought that we already were told that we already had somewhat of an environmental impact report on it, and that wasn't studied underneath it, was my understanding. And in the future, we would want to come back to that.
we have a general plan EIR. The GHG analysis itself would come with some sort of environmental document. We don't know if it's going to be an EIR or a negative deck or even exemption. It all depends on the recommendations that we get when we get to that point. Now, realize that CCOG is the one that's been driving this analysis from the beginning because they were the ones that had the contract, let me finish. They were the one that had the contract with the consulting firm to do this work. So we are party to that contract. So we did not select the consulting firms. That was done by CCOG.
Okay.
Supervisor Holder, you had a question?
No, I want clarification. Both jurisdictions requested funding from the COG to fund these plans, so it did not come out of either jurisdiction general fund.
Right.
Then they only facilitated the money. Everything else was left on the jurisdiction. I just want to make, and then last week we suspended it. And then each jurisdiction is now responsible for going out for the environmental side of it. They do have funding that's not coming out of their own general fund. But they will rebill to get reimbursed, but it's only money transcribing.
Right.
Impact on.
Madam
Right,
CEO.
so they didn't have control or input. They were
I
helping.
just want to make sure, I want to make sure that
I
to
get it.
clarify, the COG board had no input on either jurisdiction.
Right.
It went through their respective planning commission.
Right,
Okay.
because some of that money does come from through the state or the feds, especially when it comes to green gas reduction.
Well, one thing I
It
would,
comes from a lot of the vehicles on the road.
right.
Thank you. Gabriel, do you want to?
One thing I would
continue?
say is that the contract for the studies was between CCOG and the consultants. So we were sub-party to that contract. And Madam CEO and other folks who are familiar with that contract can verify that.
Madam CEO, do you have something you'd like to add?
So that is true. The COG did have the contract with the master consultant, and right now we're working with a sub-consultant, Rincon, to finish up the additional work that was requested by the planning commission.
And I just a small point of clarification, Supervisor Stopper, what the discussion about CEQA and not having been done yet with respect to the greenhouse gas reduction plan. That's true, that depending on what the ultimate plan looks like, once the numbers are run, we will need to do a CEQA document. However, doing the reduction plan itself is to implement general plan and mitigation measures. So we do have parameters and constraints regardless of the fact that we haven't done CEQA yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's chicken, egg, chicken, back and forth because no one really knows how it's gonna work out. I get it. And we're required to do it.
Right.
Simple as that. I get it. All right, sorry. I took us on a little bit of bird walk, but I just want to make sure that as we move forward, we keep our options open as much as legally possible on choosing a path that's best suited and fits Calaveras County.
This is a discussion item. That's good points.
Good.
Mr. Elliott, you want to continue?
Yes. So ongoing tasks, so GHG reduction plan, special event ordinance, RIM and benefit basing fee updates, infill database and incentives, oak woodland mitigation, As Supervisor Stopper knows, we've been before the HAC many times. I think we have a document that is currently or would soon be going through legal review to bring that ordinance into fruition. The dark sky ordinance, I'm being told, is being worked into the current zoning ordinance update. So we may not have a separate dark sky ordinance. And if it's the wish of the board to have a separate dark sky ordinance, then we would go in that direction. Resource production conversion mitigation program. And then there are some other general plan implementation activities, which is LU4C, COS4J, to provide a landscaping ordinance. We don't have a landscaping ordinance. Right now, we use a state standard that allows us to only provide landscaping that's local and water friendly. We are in the process, I think, through some of the other activities happening in the county. We may be coming up with a landscaping ordinance. We've done the basic gathering of facts. We have a landscaping palette that we can provide as part of the landscaping ordinance. In most jurisdictions, landscaping ordinances come with irrigation systems. So we need to decide whether or not we want landscaping and irrigation or just landscaping. And then the historic preservation incentives ordinance, that also has been in discussion. Most recently, we had the urgency ordinance regarding historic preservation of properties. The ordinance itself we have a skeleton ordinance that can be built upon to formulate a historic preservation ordinance. And I think by having that ordinance in place allows us to implement some of the goals in the urgency ordinance moving forward. So the recommendation for this particular, because this is just a informational item, is to receive the presentation on the general plan work program, but more importantly, provide direction on priorities. I gave you a handout that is stapled on the right-hand side as opposed to on the left-hand side that identifies what some of these general plan implementation program measures are, and it's color-coded. So the one highlighted in yellow are the ones that actually relate to land use, and there's some that are highlighted in kind of a bluish color, and there are those that are highlighted in the greenish color. So in 2020, when the board took this on, the board provided us with a list of priorities. I think the priorities you've given us so far, we have done quite a decent job in complying with them. So the question now becomes, what are your next priorities from this point going forward? So that once we're done with Oak Woodlands and Dark Sky and GHG and STVR ordinances, what next for staff?
Well, I'll start. I'm not supposed to as chair, but the list has been prioritized for 4 years. And we're only checking several of those boxes. So does anybody have any direction they want to give to planning? Supervisor Stopper?
I mean, caveat, there's a couple of things that come up. Yeah. Council. With the mind on, the few things that have come up recently, adding to the list. I think the priorities haven't necessarily changed in order. I would like to stick with that. Wrapping my head around, let's see, how much time did you put on that emergency ordinance that you passed?
45 days.
So you put a 45-day
That's,
timeline.
that's statutory.
That's the statutory.
Right, okay, so
So
that's
it-
an extension.
It actually will be coming back at the next board meeting for.
Another 45.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right.
I'm trying to remember. Okay, so. You know. One of the things is, we zoning as opposed to, land use. The land use element, that's being worked on right now. Seems like, depending on how things shake out, the copper community plan, which needs to be addressed, is up on the list. I think that the Oak Woodlands, we're gonna have a meeting later this month, so we don't have, until after we have that meeting, we sit down, I think we're gonna actually have a good thing having county council in the conversation with us so that, navigation and not having to come back after it's reviewed later and everything would be a huge help. So appreciate them being as part of the conversation that's coming up. So those are all things that have been on the priority list. Those are all things that continue to be high on my priority list. Implementation of the general plan and as a whole is a priority. So keeping it the same with the caveat, adding a couple of the other things that have come up recently and the board's concern, addressing the board's concerns, the community's concerns. And then bringing it back, here in a month or so. And because just wrap my head around it in 4 days, see how things are developed over the next month or so. And, bring it back and set our priorities. It's done. That's my opinion.
Anybody else?
I'd like to just add, Chair, that I agree with you, that I think that the amount that's already on there, I mean, my recommendation would be to let's see how many of those we could take off. In particular for me would be the short-term rental ordinance.
Thank you, and I apologize for not calling on you. Supervisor Toffenelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think to prioritize these ongoing tasks that were up here. The zoning ordinance Title 17 is a major player here for a general plan. We adopted that 4 years ago, and we're still looking to complete the zoning ordinance update. Go through the planning commission. That's going to take time there. It could keep going back before it even comes to this board. So I'm looking at that could be another year before it comes here. I think we need to prioritize with these staff one of the ongoing tasks, along with the copper community plan. Copper community plan has been ongoing. I took office in 2009. It was a priority then. Still haven't been completed.
Well,
so we need to keep going on that and keep that as a priority, along with GHG. I think the GHG plan, as Supervisor Stopper was saying, needs to be the oak woodland mitigation plan needs to be in place so we can utilize that in the GHG reduction plan. We won't be able to if we don't have that plan in place, because we won't know what it has to say about development and replacing trees that are cutting down, or planting new trees and keeping them for 5 years, or whatever it ends up saying. That could be part of it. So I think moving forward, the oak woodland mitigation plan needs to be right up there as we move forward, and then the GHG plan obviously part of the general plan. The other ones we can move forward on, dark sky ordinance. I get complaints about that. I get complaints about all the time. People's light shining on them. So that's one that's also since 2009 that I've been here. Dark sky ordinance. I think Marita was a big pusher of that, but we never got it completed. We got some in there a little bit about not being able to shine your light directly on somebody else's property, but it's not a complete ordinance, and we need to take care of that. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, my question to the board is this. The ongoing zoning ordinance update is going to roll in some kind of a dark sky component to it. So do you want us to pursue that as part of the zoning code update? Or do you want us to separate it and bring it as a standalone ordinance?
I think it would be more enforceable, in my opinion, more enforceable if it's an ordinance itself. I mean, we can incorporate it, but an ordinance itself would be more defining and more enforceable. As it's-
Well, I think, just to be clear, I mean, it would be an ordinance either way, whether it's part of the
It-
zoning
but-
code or whether
If you
it's,
codify.
so I guess.
But it would stand out itself versus in Title 17.
Right, I guess the question, right, is do we want it to be, does the board want it to be like a separate sort of standalone ordinance versus integrated into, and I actually am not the one who can speak to what's in the current draft of the zoning code update, so I will defer to either Ms. Moss Lewis or Mr. Elliott on that.
Julie Moss.
Okay, good morning, Julie Moss Lewis, Deputy County Counsel. As drafted right now, there's some lighting restrictions because there's a section of standards for lighting in zones. That has been amended by Gina and Martha. And I think in their minds, this is how a dark sky ordinance would already work. It would be based on having restrictions for lighting. So it's just not called dark sky ordinance. I can't speak to what else the board might want to see than what is being drafted in there. But if the lighting restrictions in the zoning code ordinance cover all of the concerns that you have and that the general plan has, hopefully that would be adequate. It certainly wouldn't add to the CEQA burden or anything like that. We're adding restrictions, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have the board look at what's in there now, and if you think that it needs to be intensified or broken out, we can deal with that once it comes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
As long as we got something that we can enforce.
I think we just need to start checking these off. I mean, this has been 4 years. We should start checking off some of these boxes. This has gone on far too long. We've had this conversation many times from this position. We need to get these things done. I've got 9 months left on this board. I would love to get these things done. I have a hard time finding out why we can't get them done. If the dark sky ordinance is faster because we're already doing 17 and it meets the requirements of this board, let's just get her done.
Well, I think
More things
it's
check
part, I think right, it's what is already in the zoning code update that the planning commission's working
And
on.
if that means we don't have an extra ordinance that adds another thing and we're getting it done, as long as it meets the requirements.
Right, I think what's in there, the intention is that it meets the requirements of the general plan. The question, I think that if the board wanted something additional when it comes to you could certainly do it at that time.
When it finally gets to us, though, we won't know what it looks like. With an ordinance, we can know what it looks like.
No, you'll see it when it gets to you.
We'll provide you with a strike through of what's
Well,
currently
it's
in
got
the
to go to the
code.
planning commission first, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
right. So the planning
So
commission is
I-
currently working through the updated zoning code draft. I think what Ms. Musselus was saying is part of that is a lighting reduction portion that is designed to cover this. And if the board wants to add additional, doesn't think it's sufficient from your perspective, it is from a general plan perspective, then it can.
What I was just saying, what was in there presented to them may change before it comes to
Sure.
us. And so we won't know what the original looks like. We won't have the original, we'll have the planning commission version that comes to us.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just saying, we won't know what it looks like till whenever it gets to it. If we put an ordinance together, we can get it done sooner.
Well, it would still go through the planning commission.
Still go through the
What's a
planning
standalone
commission. I
ordinance,
understand
yeah.
that, but it may be a quicker.
The planning website has I believe the current draft right now with the proposed lighting changes. Is that, Mr. Elliott? Okay.
All right,
So
thank you.
take it now before, there is a version now.
You know what I'm saying, though, we don't.
do.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And also, we can provide you with a strike-through document that shows current language or added language. So there are different ways to identify that. But I wanted to address your comment, Mr. Chair. regarding what needs to be done within the next 9 months for you before you leave office. The zoning ordinance update is going to be done. That's for sure. The corporate community plan, I have given the most recent draft to county council. So that should go through. There's no more public hearing. There's no more community meetings required because we've had 3 of them and we have a consensus on a document. So what we have to go through now is just legal vetting. GHG reduction plan, hopefully we can get that through once we get the information back from our consultants on calculating the numbers based on the changes the planning commission made. Special events ordinance, we haven't really started on that one yet. So that might be a little bit of an outlier. The oak woodland mitigation, that is closer to being done than not, because again, Deputy County Counsel has a draft document. So all in all, I think we can accomplish a few things. The major ones, the STVRs, we have a draft. You're part of that meeting where we talk about that. So I think the ones that are concerning and immediate to the county would be accomplished within the next 9 months, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to make clear, since we're going to see this next week, since we talked about the historic preservation ordinance, that I will not be voting for this again if it doesn't have a time certain that this is going to be complete. I'm not going to do a 2-year and then punt it down the road. We did a big piece of this work. I'd like to see it before the planning commission.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it go through the proper public process and come back to us, but I won't be supporting it when you bring it back if it doesn't have a time certain on this.
So
We're not going to just let it bleed out there for 24
I
or
understand.
27 more months.
I'm
whatever it
going to
is.
let the county council address the nature of an urgency ordinance. So
I understand
until-
the nature
yeah,
of an urgency
until the
ordinance,
urgency
which is
ordinance
why I'm
becomes
making
permanent.
it clear
Yeah.
that we're not going to use an urgency ordinance like a permanent ordinance, at least one vote.
Oh, no, that's.
And
not
I'll
the-
just say from my perspective, I don't think it will require the 2 years, which is the, as you point out, or whatever it is, 22 months, 15 days that the statute allows for. I obviously can't speak for the planning commission and how long they might take with something, but we could certainly have a draft permanent ordinance to the planning commission much faster.
Okay, well, you know my position. Supervisor Stopper?
9 months.
Come on.
Is believe nothing of what you hear and 50% of what you see. It's nothing solid until you put your signature on that piece of paper, Chair. And we've been waiting a long time, so anything certain is uncertain until you have your signature on that paper.
Well, then I will try to motivate things along. I
That
agree.
paper in
Nothing's
front of
done till
us.
it's done. Other comments? Supervisor Fullendorf?
I understand what you're saying, Gabriel, with a lot of these coming up and they should have check marks. And I hope that it comes to truth. I guess my concern is we've got a lot of we've got Title 17, which is the biggest one. I'm just concerned that a lot of, not that they're not priorities, but they're low hanging fruits and we should be able to get through them faster than what we're actually getting through. And so with all due respect to everyone that's involved, I think some of these processes have been delayed trying to appease, and I think some of this stuff just needs to get in front of us. And so we can start wrapping it up. Because I hate for individuals to be spending more time on them when we could be possibly completely changing it. So I think we need to get them in front of us. So if they do need time to go back for a public process, a further public process, they do, but we need to get some of this stuff in front of us, and they should have already been done like last year. And it's not just the time frame. We're also running up against costs. You know, some of these things were funded in other ways outside of county budget, and we really need to wrap them up so we can close them out on our end. Because you know, at this point, and it's just not for planning, it's for other departments that are getting funded through other mechanisms. We're not adopting and completing things at all. And it really is going to hurt us in the long run when we want more money. And so we need to start taking more responsibility. If we've asked these things, we need to start showing that we're doing them so we can continue to seek funding. Because some of the holdup is ourselves, because we have not formally adopted them. We can't move forward to the next phase of funding. And grant applications are coming around, and it's not just for planning, it is for other departments, it's across the board. And it's making me nervous because we've got another fiscal year coming up and we do not have anything by by the Board of Supervisors to move forward for staff to get additional money to get us moving. Otherwise, it'll be coming out of our own budget.
So by way of priorities, let's assume that 1 through 10. I'm going to assume that the zoning ordinance update is number 1 because it's gone furthest. I'm going to assume that the GHG reduction plan will be number 2. The copper community plan is somewhere in the top 5, but we have a special events ordinance. We have the oak woodland mitigation. So what I'm trying to take away from this meeting is if you can tell me your 10 most important in order of priority so that we can start focusing on that. Now, there are some that are already going on in the process, but if you want to just say number 1, zoning code, number 2, GHG, number 3, dark sky, number 4, STVR, et cetera, et cetera.
If I may, Mr. Elliott, I believe we can chew gum and walk at the same time. These have all been on the list for 4 years.
They have.
So they all should be moving forward.
Okay.
They all have different times. I'm worried that if we give you a 1 through 10 list, you're going to do number 1. Then you're going to do number 2. And what we want is these done. They've been ongoing. Parts of them are already in process.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, do we want to put numbers on these gentlemen, lady?
If I'm gonna even think about putting numbers on anything, I'm gonna put some thought into it.
Okay.
Chair,
One second, Mr. Alberti.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Stopper was
Let-
finishing.
If we're gonna put numbers on anything, I want some time to really consider it. But some of these things fill in, like walking and chewing, we can't do it all at the same time. There's no way we have the capacity. That's a fact. But some of these things do fold into each other. Sure. And so we can walk and chew gum at the same time and get certain things done, but they aren't gonna all get done at the same time. We've had this priority list up for so many years. There's so much more than this priority list to work on. And some of these things, we'll pick some of those up because they'll go hand in hand. I'm not putting a number on the list. We got a list. It's being worked on, you know, and that's where I stand. So, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Alberti.
thank you. It'd be very helpful to know what the percentage of work to complete these projects as well.
Mr. Elliott, how far along are we on these projects?
Okay, so let me go back to the list. Zoning ordinance update, I would say we're about 75% because we've gone. So right now, what the planning commission is doing is actually looking at all the changes that have been recommended and made, and they're kind of going through the whole ordinance all over again. So we're closer to the finish line than before. Copper Community Plan, we have a plan that I think has a consensus built into it. So it's just a matter of writing the report, scheduling it for a hearing, going through Planning Commission first, and then coming to the Board of Supervisors. GHG reduction plan, if I could put a percentage on that.
Mr. Elliott, could you put a percentage on the copper? Where you think?
Copper. I would say copper is about 90. Because the 10% left is basically Planning Commission hearing and Board of Supervisors approval, right? Yeah. So the next item, special events ordinance, we're at 0 level right there because we haven't even started it. We did not want to include this with the zoning code update because it's a very, very touchy item in the county. And so we wanted to devote specific time to doing that separately.
Before we move on to the next one. GHG, can you go back on that one? I didn't catch, we broke off. Where are you on GHG?
Okay, so GHG has gone through planning commission hearing. We've got recommendation from the consultant. The planning commission took input from members of the public who were concerned about certain elements of it that might affect their ability to do certain things on their private property. The planning commission listened and then they changed some of the recommendation by the consultant. Now, we're now at a stage where we're taking all that analysis back to the consultant and saying, now that we've made changes to them, can you calibrate the numbers to still make sure that we meet our goal, which is complying with SP 32, et cetera, et cetera. So we're waiting. Once we get that, I think the next step would be Board of Supervisors hearing. So we're closer to the finish line than we started.
How long have the consultants had it?
Madam, so we gave them since December. We've been trying to communicate since December. Now, Madam CEO is in communication.
So
With them. She can give it.
we did send the information to the consultant in December. They did let us know that they were booked through January. We have been in communication with them in February, sending them additional information. There was a side-by-side done of what was recommended by the original consultant, what the planning commission wanted changed, and there's been dialogue back and forth with the consultant on it's very minor changes to that and whether or not they can actually quantify those. So I've been in communication with the consultant as late as this week. And so I will continue to push that issue with them. But right now, a lot of these consultants are very, very busy. I don't know.
So we're relatively close to bringing it to the board.
Oh, we're closer than before.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Same thing goes for oak woodland mitigation. It's been with the HAC for quite some time. We're not ready to go forward. I would go to the planning commission first, and then it will come to the board for approval. So with the oak woodland mitigation, I would say that we are at about 60% because we have a working document. The 40% part is 20% to the planning commission process, 20% to the board of supervisors process. We haven't gone before the planning commission yet, but we anticipate to go to the planning commission as soon as we can get legal vetting on that ordinance to make sure it complies with general plan and so on and so forth and state and federal laws. And by the way, if you're concerned about planning commission hearing, we hold the zoning code hearings on Wednesdays. If there is any carryover, we continue them to a regular planning commission meeting on the Thursday. So we have constant zoning code update meeting on Wednesdays on non-planning commission days. And in addition to that, we have 2 planning commission meetings every month during which we can actually discuss what was continued from a Wednesday prior to the meetings. So we are very aggressive with the zoning code update.
The questions from the board? Mr. Haberty, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you, Chair.
I was just gonna echo Martin's comment. You know, I can't put a number on it because so much stuff has percentages. And I don't want, if we're one step closer, even on the lower, smaller stuff, to get it done. So that gives staff more time to focus on this bigger stuff. It needs to be built out like that. And because if we start doing 1, 2, 3, stuff that close to the finish line, it's just gonna get punted.
I agree. All right. Anything else, Mr. Elliott?
That's it.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to supervisor announcements. Madam Clerk.
In compliance with Government Code 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on any meetings attended at the expense of the local agency and may make other announcements or report out.
Thank you. We'll start with Supervisor Hubbard.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any reportable items, but I will say that I now understand the importance of hitting that button so you can hear the microphone.
Thank you. Supervisor Stopper.
Nothing to report, sir.
Supervisor Toffenelli.
I have nothing to report.
Supervisor Fallendorf.
Yes, I have two things to report. I went yesterday to Sacramento to celebrate Marita's award, thanks to Martin for his nomination. Marita was recognized yesterday at the Senate floor.
There.
Yeah, you were there. So that it was nice spending some time. So yeah, she's back in the country. So she'll start haunting you, okay? And then we did attend the COG and CTA meeting with Irish Days starting this weekend. The Saturday hopper will kick off, and it won't just be from Angels. There's also bus from Arnold to help alleviate with the parking from the public up in Murphy's. And other than that, COG was pretty routine. We did give the jurisdiction to match for a joint application that they had put in through Public Works for safe roads planning application to start looking at safe streets and roads planning. Other than that, it was pretty routine. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. I attended several meetings in Sacramento on Golden State Connect Authority and RCRC. I'll be doing that again tomorrow. And I attended the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Board meeting down in Sacramento also. It was a 2-day event. We approved about $6 million for implementation of fuel breaks in the on the McCallamy watershed, which is exciting. Most of this on both sides of the river. So we're getting a lot of good work there, and that money goes through UMRA, which we're a part of. So good news on that front. Is there anything else to announce, Madam CEO, Madam Council Clerk?
We just want to report out from our prior closed sessions before we see if there's any public comment on today's.
Thank you. We'll do that as we read into closed session.
Okay. A report out from the February 27th, 2024 meeting. Item 1, pursuant to Government Code 54957B1, Public Employee Annual Performance Evaluation, Title County Executive Officer. Board action, no reportable action taken.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Item 2, pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel re-anticipated litigation, 1 case, significant exposure to litigation. Board action, no reportable action. I have one more. Okay. Report out from March 5th, 2024. Item 1, pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, re-anticipated litigation, 1 case, significant exposure to litigation. Board action, no reportable action taken.
Thank you very much. We'll now recess into closed session, and we will report out at the next meeting.
And
Sorry, God, I'm slipping up.
closed session agenda item 21, pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, re-anticipated litigation, 1 case, significant exposure to litigation, and there's no public comments.
Thank you.